I'm going to start with the sentence that killed the person I used to be. It wasn't a curse word, and it wasn't screamed in a fit of rage. It was spoken softly, almost logically, by a woman standing over a hospital bed where her daughter lay paralyzed and terrified. If she dies, use her kidney for Emily. That was my mother. I was the one in the bed. I was 20 years old, unable to blink, unable to breathe on my own, trapped in a chemical darkness, but I heard every single syllable. That sentence has lived in my head for 6 years. It's the first thing I think of when I wake up, and it's the last thing I hear before I take a sleeping pill to knock myself out. Last week, that same woman stood on my front porch in the rain, mascara running down her face, begging me to save my sister's life again. She talked about family. She talked about love. She talked about duty. And for the first time in my life, I didn't just take it. I looked her right in the eye and I repeated those exact words back to her. But before we get to the part where I slammed the door in her face, you need to understand how mother gets to the point where she can barter her child's organs like used car parts. You need to understand the Bennett family. To the outside world, we were the perfect suburban family. My father was an accountant, quiet, the kind of man who disappears into the background of his own life. My mother was a stay-at-home mom who treated parenting like a competitive sport. And then there were the girls, Emily and Claire. Emily was the sun. I don't say that out of jealousy. I say it as a statement of fact. From the moment she was born, she had this gravitational pull. She was blonde, blue-eyed, and possessed a natural charisma that made adults want to give her candy and teachers want to give her A's. She was the one in the dance recitals, center stage, glittering in sequins. She was the one who won the spelling bees. She was the one who got the best all-around superlatives in the yearbook. I was just Claire. I was the dark-haired, quiet one. The one who was sturdy. That was my mother's favorite word for me. Sturdy. Resilient. Low maintenance. If Emily scraped her knee, it was a medical emergency that required ice packs and cuddling on the couch for hours. If I broke my arm falling off the swing set, which actually happened when I was 7, my mother told me to stop crying and get in the car so we wouldn't be late for Emily's tap class. I sat in the back seat for 45 minutes, cradling a fractured radius, biting my lip until it bled so I wouldn't make a noise. When we finally got to the ER, the doctor asked why we waited so long. My mother just laughed a frantic, charming little laugh and said, "Oh, Claire is so tough." She barely complained. I didn't realize it was serious. That was the narrative. Claire can handle it. Claire doesn't need attention. Claire is fine. By the time we were teenagers, the roles were set in stone. Emily was the delicate flower that needed constant watering and protection. I was the weed growing through the cracks in the driveway. I learned early on that the only way to get any approval was to be useful to Emily. If I helped her with her homework, Mom would smile at me. If I ironed her dress for the homecoming dance, Dad would give me a nod. I became a servant in my own house, trading labor for scraps of affection. I convinced myself it was normal. I told myself that this was just how families worked. Some people were stars, and some people were the stage crew. I was the crew. I was okay with that, or at least I thought I was. I went to nursing school because I was used to taking care of people who didn't say thank you. It felt like a natural progression. Then came the year we turned 20. It started with Emily complaining about headaches. Then she was tired all the time. Real tired, not just stayed up too late tired. Her ankles started to swell. My mother, of course, was in a frenzy. She took Emily to the best specialists in the state. I was in the middle of my sophomore year of nursing school, studying for pharmacology finals when I got the call. "Come home," my mother said. Her voice was tight, high-pitched. "It's Emily. It's her kidneys." I dropped everything. I failed a test because I left in the middle of the week. I drove 3 hours home to find the house feeling like a funeral parlor. Emily was on the couch, looking pale and small. My mother was pacing the living room. Genetic. My mother spat out the word like it was poison. Focal segmental glomerulosclerosis. Her kidneys are scarring over. They're failing Claire. Both of them. I sat down, feeling the cold knot of dread in my stomach. Okay. So, dialysis?
Or,
Transplant. My mother cut me off. She stopped pacing and looked at me. It was a look I would come to know very well. It was a look of assessment. She wasn't looking at her daughter. She was looking at a biological asset. She needs a transplant. The waiting list is 5 years. She doesn't have 5 years.
she didn't ask.
She didn't even ease into it. She just stared at me. I'll get tested, I said. It was automatic. I was the sturdy one. I was the fixer. This was my job. Good, she said. She didn't say thank you. She just breathed a sigh of relief, as if I had finally performed the function I was designed for. We go tomorrow at 8 a.m. The testing process was a blur of needles, scans, and social worker interviews. The social workers are supposed to make sure you aren't being coerced. They asked me, "Are you doing this of your own free will?" I said yes. And technically, I was. Nobody was holding a gun to my head. But looking back, I realized that emotional coercion is just as powerful as a weapon. I had been groomed for 20 years to believe that my only value lay in what I could give to Emily. If I said no, I would lose the only family I had. I would be the monster who let the golden child die. I was a match. A perfect 6-point match. When the results came in, my parents threw a dinner party. Not to celebrate me, but to celebrate the miracle. To celebrate Emily's second chance. I sat at the end of the table, sipping water, while my uncle gave a toast to Emily's bravery. To Emily, he said, raising his glass, for fighting so hard. Everyone cheered. To Emily. I looked down at my plate. I was the one about to have an organ cut out of my body. I was the one putting my health on the line. But I was invisible. I was just the vessel carrying the cure. The surgery was scheduled for a Tuesday. I remember the pre-op holding area vividly. Emily was in the bed next to me. She was terrified, crying. My mother was stroking her hair, whispering soothing things. My father was holding Emily's hand. I was lying there alone. The nurse, a kind woman named Brenda, was the only one who seemed to notice I was there. She was checking my four. "You doing okay, hon?" she asked quietly. "Yeah," I said, my voice shaking. "I'm okay." "You're doing a brave thing," she said. She squeezed my hand. That stranger's touch was the only comfort I got. My mother looked over then, briefly. "Claire, stop fidgeting. You're making Emily nervous." That was the last thing she said to me before the anesthesia took over. Stop fidgeting. The surgery itself went well for Emily. Her body accepted the kidney immediately. It started making urine right on the table. A success. A triumph. For me, it was a descent into hell. Something went wrong during the closure. A nick in the bowel? A breach in the sterile field? We never got the full story because the hospital buried it in paperwork, but the result was sepsis. Massive, systemic infection. I didn't wake up in the recovery room. I woke up in the ICU days later. But woke up isn't the right word. My mind woke up. My body didn't. It's called critical illness polyneuropathy, combined with a rare reaction to the paralytic agents they used during the emergency reintubation when I crashed. I was locked in. I could feel the tube down my throat, choking me. I could feel the heavy, leaden weight of my limbs. I tried to scream, but my vocal cords were frozen. I tried to open my eyes, but my eyelids felt like they were sewn shut. I was conscious. I was aware. And I was in agony. I could hear the beep 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 of the cardiac monitor. It was fast, erratic. I could hear the hiss of the ventilator pushing air into my stiff lungs. And I could hear voices. "Her BP is dropping again," a man's voice said. "Dr. Evans." I knew him. He was the intensivist. "We're maxed out on pressors. The infection is shutting down her organs." "What does that mean?" My mother's voice. She sounded calm. Too calm. "It means she is critically unstable, Mrs. Bennett. We are doing everything we can, but I need to be honest with you. Claire might not make it through the night. Her remaining kidney took a hit from the shock. Her liver is struggling. It's a cascade failure." I panicked. Inside my head, I was screaming.
"Mom, Dad,
"I'm here. I'm alive."
help me."
"And Emily?" my mother asked. There was a pause. A sickening silence. Emily is doing fine, Dr. Evans said, sounding confused by the pivot. She's in the step-down unit. Her creatinine levels are normal. Okay, my mother said.
Good.
Mrs. Bennet, we are talking about Claire right now. I know, my mother said. I could hear her shifting on her feet. I could hear the rustle of her coat. But I need to ask, if she doesn't make it. She trailed off. If she passes? Dr. Evans asked gently.
Yes.
If she dies. Her voice became stronger, sharper. Can we take the other one? Her other kidney? Just in case? You said Emily's might reject later. Or for research.
Or,
I don't know. Can we use her to make sure Emily is okay? I felt my soul freeze. The coldness wasn't from the four fluids. It was a fundamental shattering of my reality. Mrs. Bennet, Dr. Evans' voice dropped an octave. He sounded horrified. Your daughter is lying here fighting for her life. She is a living patient. We do not harvest organs from living patients to keep as spares. That is not how this works. I'm just being practical, my mother snapped, her voice rising. I can't lose Emily. We've been through so much with her. If Claire is going to die anyway, why waste it? Why let it rot in the ground if it could help Emily? Stop, Dr. Evans said firmly. We are not having this conversation. My priority is saving Claire. And frankly, I am disturbed that you are even asking this. Don't you judge me, she hissed. You don't know what it's like to be a mother. I am trying to save your daughter, he yelled back. My daughter is in the other room recovering, she screamed. That was it. That was the sentence that severed the cord. My daughter is in the other room. I wasn't her daughter. I was the spare. I was the organ bank. I was inventory. I wanted to die right then. I wanted to just let go and flatline, to stop the pain, to stop the betrayal. But anger is a powerful fuel. Hate is even stronger. I lay there in the dark, listening to my mother negotiate the cannibalization of my body, and I decided I wasn't going to die. I was going to live just to spite her. I survived. It took 3 weeks in the ICU. When I finally regained movement, when I could finally open my eyes and speak, I didn't say a word about what I had heard. I couldn't. It was too big, too monstrous. If I said it out loud, it would make it real. And besides, nobody would have believed me. I was the sick one now. The confused one. While I was learning how to walk again, dragging my atrophied legs down the hospital hallway, Emily was having a party. I saw it on Instagram. My mother had decorated her hospital room with balloons. Rebirth Day, the banner said. There was cake. My aunts and uncles were there. The caption on the photo read, "So grateful for this miracle. God is good. Emily is a warrior." There was no mention of me. No mention of the donor. I was just a complication they had left downstairs in the ICU. I was discharged a week after Emily. I went back to my parents' house because I had nowhere else to go. I was weak, I had lost 20 pounds, and my remaining kidney was permanently damaged. It functioned at about 60%. Good enough to live, but I would need to be careful forever. No ibuprofen, low protein, constant hydration. The atmosphere in the house had shifted. Emily was glowing. She was the center of the universe. I was the ghost haunting the hallways. When I tried to talk about how hard recovery was, my mother would sigh. Claire, please. Be positive. You're bringing everyone down. When I mentioned that my incision was hurting, Emily would roll her eyes. Mine hurts too, Claire. But I'm not whining about it. You should be happy I'm alive. The breaking point came 3 months later. I walked into the kitchen and found my mother and Aunt Sarah looking at a brochure for a cruise. A celebration of life. Cruise for the whole family. It'll be great for Emily, my mother was saying. Sea air is so healing. What about Claire? Aunt Sarah asked. Is she well enough to travel? My mother waved her hand dismissively. Oh, Claire can't go. She needs to stay close to her doctors. Besides, she's been so moody lately. She's not herself. I think she regrets it, Sarah. I think she regrets giving the kidney. I stood in the doorway, my hand gripping the frame. She's just jealous, my mother continued, her voice lowering to a conspiratorial whisper. She can't stand that Emily is finally getting the attention she deserves. It's sick, really. To be jealous of your own sick sister. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. I just turned around, walked up the stairs to my room, and started packing. I waited until they went out for dinner that night. They didn't ask me to come. I packed 2 suitcases. I took my documents. I took the little bit of savings I had. And I left a note on the counter. I'm not jealous. And I'm not your spare parts anymore. Don't look for me. I drove. I drove until the gas light came on, filled up, and drove some more. I ended up in a city 3 states away. I changed my phone number. I blocked them on everything. I finished nursing school. It was harder alone, working 2 jobs to pay rent, studying until my eyes burned, my body aching from the fatigue that never really went away. But I did it. I graduated at the top of my class. I chose the ICU. I wanted to be the person standing between the patient and death. I wanted to be the advocate I never had. 6 years passed. 6 years of silence. 6 years of building a life that was small, quiet, and mine. I had a cat named Barnaby. I had a studio apartment with plants in the window. I had colleagues who respected me. I was happy. Or so I thought. It was a Tuesday night in November. A miserable, rainy night. The ER was overflowing. I had been floated down from the ICU to help with the surge. I was in the trauma bay, cutting the clothes off a motorcycle accident victim, when the charge nurse shouted my name. Claire. Incoming in Bay 4. Female, 26, severe respiratory distress, likely flash pulmonary edema. Renal history. I snapped on fresh gloves and ran to Bay 4. The paramedics were wheeling the stretcher in. The patient was sitting up, gasping, foam at the corners of her mouth. Her skin was gray, clammy. She was drowning in her own fluids. BP 180 over 110, heart rate 130, SATs 82% on non-rebreather, the medic shouted. I moved fast. Let's get BiPAP ready. Start a line. Give 40 of Lasix for push. I reached over to put the blood pressure cuff on her arm. She turned her head, her eyes wide with terror, searching the room for something to hold on to. I looked at her face. It was distorted by swelling and fear, but I knew those eyes. I knew that nose. The world stopped. The noise of the ear, the alarms, the yelling, the rain, fell away. It was Emily, my sister, the golden child. But she didn't look golden now. She looked like a corpse that hadn't gotten the memo. She was in end-stage renal failure. Again. I froze. My hand hovered over the cuff. She blinked, focusing on me. I was wearing a mask, a scrub cap, and a plastic face shield. But she knew. Sisters always know. See, Claire, she wheezed. The sound was wet, bubbling. I felt a physical blow to my chest. It wasn't love. It wasn't relief. It was panic. Pure, unadulterated panic. The past had just crashed through the doors of my safe haven. Claire, she gasped, reaching out a hand. Her fingers were swollen, like sausages. You came. She thought I was there for her. She thought I had sensed her impending death and rushed to her side like the loyal dog I used to be. I looked at her hand. I didn't take it. I leaned in close, checking the seal on her oxygen mask, my voice professional and ice cold. No, Emily, I said. I work here. Help me, she cried, tears mixing with the sweat on her face. I'm dying. I looked at the monitor. Her heart rhythm was irritable. Her kidneys were gone. She was toxic. You're not dying tonight, I said, turning to grab the kit. But you're in trouble. Mom, she choked out. Call Mom. I paused. The needle hovered over her vein. Call Mom. Call the woman who wanted to harvest me. Call the woman who erased me. We'll call her, I said. Just breathe. I got the line. I pushed the drugs. We stabilized her. It took an hour, but we pulled her back from the edge. As they were wheeling her up to the ICU, my unit, I stood in the bay, stripping off my bloody gloves. My hands were shaking. I knew what was coming. I knew that my 6 years of peace were over. The vampires were at the gate, and they were hungry. After Emily was wheeled upstairs to the ICU, I didn't follow immediately. I couldn't. I retreated to the staff break room, a windowless box that smelled of stale coffee and bleach. I scrubbed my hands at the sink. I scrubbed them until the skin was raw and red, as if I could wash away the sensation of Emily's clammy skin against my gloves. My heart was hammering against my ribs, a frantic, bird-like rhythm. I looked at myself in the mirror above the sink. I looked older than 26. There were fine lines around my eyes, shadows that spoke of 12-hour shifts and a life lived in high-stakes environments. But beneath the exhaustion, I saw the fear. Not fear of Emily dying. I deal with death every day. It was the fear of being pulled back under. It was the terrifying realization that the fortress of solitude I had built for 6 years had just been breached. Claire? I jumped. It was Sarah, one of the other nurses. She was holding a fresh pot of coffee. "You okay?" she asked, eyeing my shaking hands. "That was a rough one. You know her?" I grabbed a paper towel and dried my hands, taking a breath to steady my voice.
Yeah.
"We went to high school together." I lied. I had to. If I admitted she was my sister, the hospital protocols would kick in. They would remove me from the unit for conflict of interest. And right now, I needed to be close. I needed to see this play out. I needed to know if they had changed. "Rough night for an old friend," Sarah said sympathetically. "Her labs are trash. Creatinine is 6.8. Potassium is critical. She's lucky she didn't arrest in the ambulance." "Yeah," I said, pouring myself a cup of black coffee just to have something to hold. "Lucky." I went back out to the floor. Emily was settled in room 404. I could see her through the glass doors. She was hooked up to the dialysis machine now, the CRRT, continuous renal replacement therapy, gently cycling her blood, cleaning out the toxins her failed kidney couldn't handle. She was sedated, her chest rising and falling with the help of a high-flow oxygen mask. She looked small, vulnerable. For a second, just a split second, I felt a pang of pity. She was 26, just like me. She should be out dating, working, living. Instead, she was failing. Then the elevator doors dinged, and the pity evaporated. They arrived like a storm front. My mother was leading the charge, her heels clicking aggressively on the linoleum. She was wearing a trench coat that looked expensive, her hair perfectly coiffed despite the late hour. Behind her trailed my father, looking grayer, more stooped than I remembered. He was carrying her purse. They didn't go to the reception desk. They didn't ask for permission. My mother marched straight toward the unit doors, her eyes scanning the rooms like a hawk hunting for prey. "Where is she?" I heard her demand of the unit clerk. "Where is Emily Bennett?" I stepped out from behind the nurse's station. I didn't want them to find her first. I wanted them to find me. "Room 404, I said. My mother spun around. Her eyes landed on me, and for a moment, there was zero recognition. She saw blue scrubs.
She saw a mask.
She saw a nurse. "Thank you," she snapped, turning away. "Hello, Mother," I said. She froze. It was a theatrical freeze, the kind you see in bad soap operas. She turned back slowly. I reached up and pulled my mask down. Her face went through a kaleidoscope of emotions. Confusion.
Shock.
Disbelief. And then, something that looked terrifyingly like calculation. "Claire," she whispered. My father peered around her shoulder. His eyes widened. "Claire Bear." "Don't call me that," I said, my voice flat. My mother didn't cry. She didn't run to hug me. She stepped closer, invading my personal space, her eyes searching my face. "What are you doing here?" "I work here. I'm the charge nurse tonight." You work here?" She looked around the ICU, taking in the expensive equipment, the bustling staff. "You're a nurse?" "Yes." "We thought." She trailed off. "We heard you were working at a diner in Ohio." "You heard what you wanted to hear," I said. "And I haven't been in Ohio for 4 years." "Well," she straightened her coat, regaining her composure with frightening speed. "This is serendipitous. Truly. God works in mysterious ways. God had nothing to do with it, I said. Emily didn't take care of her transplant. That's why she's here. My mother's face hardened. How dare you? She did everything right. It just failed. It was a bad match. It was a perfect match, I corrected her. I was there, remember? I gave it to her. It was flawed, she hissed. It failed her, just like you did when you ran away. I didn't run away. I survived you. Claire, please, my father interjected, his voice weak. Not now. Your sister is sick. I know, I said. I'm the one who kept her heart from stopping in the ER while you were parking your car. My mother blinked. You treated her? Yes. A slow smile spread across her face. It wasn't a warm smile. It was the smile of a predator realizing the trap has already been sprung. You saved her, she said softly. See? You still love her. Deep down, you know your duty. I did my job, I said. Now, if you want to see her, you have 5 minutes. Then shift change happens, and you have to leave. I'm not leaving my daughter, she declared. You have 2 daughters, I said. Or, did you forget? I have 1 daughter who is dying, she spat, and 1 who is standing in my way. I let them in. I watched from the station as my mother threw herself across Emily's bed, wailing. It was a performance. I knew it was a performance because I saw her check her watch before she started crying. She needed the staff to see her grief. She needed the audience. Dr. Holloway, the nephrologist on call, arrived 10 minutes later. He was a good man, tired, pragmatic. He went into the room. I stood in the doorway, listening. The rejection is acute and severe, Dr. Holloway explained. The graft has failed. We can keep her on dialysis for now, but her vascular access is poor. Her veins are shot from all the previous treatments. Long-term dialysis is risky. Her heart is already showing signs of strain. So she needs a new kidney, my mother said. It wasn't a question. Ideally, yes. But her antibody levels are sky high. Because of the first transplant, her body is primed to attack foreign tissue. Finding a deceased donor match will be incredibly difficult. It could take years. She doesn't have years. But she has a sister, my mother said. The air left the room. Dr. Holloway looked up from his chart, confused. I'm sorry. Claire. My mother pointed at me standing in the doorway. She's right there. She's a match. She gave 1 before. She can give the other one. Dr. Holloway looked at me, then back at my mother. His expression shifted from confusion to horror. Mrs. Bennett, Claire has already donated. A person cannot survive without kidneys. But she has 1 left, my mother argued, her logic twisting into insanity. And Emily needs 1. Claire is healthy. Look at her. She's working. She's fine. Emily is the one who is sick. Mrs. Bennett, Dr. Holloway said, his voice stern. If Claire gives her remaining kidney, Claire will be the one on dialysis. Claire will be the one dying. We do not swap one life for another. But Claire is strong, my mother cried. She can handle it. Emily can't. Emily is delicate. I stepped into the room. I'm right here, Mom. I'm not a piece of furniture. My mother turned to me, tears streaming down her face. Then do something. Offer. Why are you just standing there? Your sister is dying. I can't give her a kidney, Mom. You won't. I can't, I repeated. And even if I could, I wouldn't. Not after last time. You selfish, ungrateful. She lunged at me. My father caught her arm, holding her back. We gave you life. We raised you. And this is how you repay us? By watching your sister rot. You raised me to be a spare part, I said calmly. And the spare part is out of stock. I walked out. I told the unit clerk to call security if they caused a scene. I went home to my empty apartment, fed Barnaby, and sat in the dark. I didn't sleep. I knew this was just the opening skirmish. My mother didn't lose battles. She just changed tactics. 2 days later, the summons came. It wasn't a legal summons, though it felt like one. It was a text from my father. Please, Claire, come to the hospital chapel. 2 p.m.
We need to talk.
Family only.
Please.
I shouldn't have gone. I knew better. But a part of me, the part that was still that little girl wanting her daddy to look at her, wanted to see if there was any humanity left in them. I walked into the chapel at 2 p.m. sharp. It was a small, quiet room with stained glass windows and rows of generic wooden chairs. They were waiting. It wasn't just my parents. Sitting in the front row was Aunt Sarah, clutching a tissue. And standing at the pulpit, wearing his black clerics and a somber expression, was Father Mike. I almost laughed. They had brought in the heavy artillery. "Claire," Father Mike said, his voice echoing slightly in the small space. He opened his arms as if to embrace me. "It has been a long time." I stayed by the door. "Hello, Father. I didn't know you made house calls to hospitals 3 states away." "Your mother called me," he said gently. "She is in great distress. The whole family is." "I bet," I said, leaning against the wall, crossing my arms. "So, what is this?" "An exorcism." "It's an intervention," Aunt Sarah piped up. Her voice was shrill. "For your soul, Claire." "My soul is fine, thanks." "My kidneys, however, are a different story." "Sit down, Claire," my mother said. She was sitting next to my father, looking pious and exhausted. "We need to discuss the solution." "There is no solution that involves my body," I said. "Just listen," Father Mike said. He walked over and gestured to a chair.
"Please."
"Out of respect for the years I watched you grow up." I sat. Not because I respected him, but because my legs felt heavy. "Claire," the priest began, sitting opposite me. "I understand you harbor some anger toward your family. Grief does terrible things to us. Misunderstandings happen." "It wasn't a misunderstanding," I said. "It was medical neglect." "Let's focus on the present," he waved his hand, dismissing my trauma. "The Bible tells us, greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. Your sister is not just a friend. She is your flesh, your blood. She is the other half of you." "She's a separate human being," I said. "She is dying," my mother sobbed. "My baby is dying." "And Claire," Father Mike continued, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper, "God has given you a unique position. You are the only one who can save her. The doctors said you are the only match." "Did they also tell you that I have stage 3 chronic kidney disease because of the first donation?" I asked. Father Mike paused. He looked at my mother. "She's exaggerating," my mother said quickly. "The doctor said she has mild dysfunction. She runs. She works. She's clearly fine. She's just using that as an excuse because she's jealous." "Jealous?" I asked, my voice rising. "Yes, jealous." Aunt Sarah chimed in. "You always were. You couldn't stand that Emily was the special one. You couldn't stand that she needed us more. So you ran away to punish us. And now, you're holding the cure over her head like a tyrant." "I'm not holding anything," I said. "I don't have it to give." "You have a kidney," my mother screamed, her facade cracking. "You have one right there. I can see it on the scans. It's working. Why do you get to keep it when Emily has none?" "Because it's mine," I yelled back. "Because I need it to stay alive." "You can go on dialysis," she shrieked. "You are strong. You can handle dialysis. Emily is too weak. Her heart can't take it. You could trade places. If you really loved her, you would trade places." The room went silent. Even Father Mike looked shocked. "Trade places," I repeated slowly. "You want me to go into kidney failure so she can live?" "You're the strong one," my mother said, wiping her eyes, her voice dropping to a terrifyingly reasonable tone. "You've always been the strong one, Claire. You can survive it. Emily, she's not like you. She needs help. It's the logical choice." I looked at my father. "Dad, do you agree with this? You want me to hook myself up to a machine for the rest of my life, so Emily can go back to pageants?" My father looked at his shoes. We can't lose her, Claire. We can't." "But you can lose me," I said. He didn't answer. That silence was louder than any scream. "You are being incredibly selfish," Aunt Sarah muttered. "After everything they did for you." raising you, feeding you. I paid my debt, I said. I paid it in flesh 6 years ago. And you regretted it. Aunt Sarah pointed a finger at me. Emily told us. She said you came into her room and told her you wished you never did it. She said you cried and made her feel guilty for being alive. I laughed. It was a dry, broken sound. Is that what she said? Yes, my mother said. Emily tells us everything. She told us how cruel you were. Okay, I said. I stood up. I think it's time for a little history lesson. I reached into my bag and pulled out my laptop. What are you doing? Father Mike asked nervously. You brought God into this, Father, I said, opening the laptop and placing it on the chair. But I prefer evidence. I navigated to the folder labeled Backup, Medical/2018. I found the audio file. You say I was the cruel one, I said to my mother. You say I was the one who abandoned the family. You say Emily is the innocent victim. She is. And you say you love us both equally. I do. I am a mother. Then explain this, I said. I hit the spacebar. The audio filled the chapel. The acoustics were perfect for the horror that was about to unfold. The rhythmic whoosh hiss of the ventilator. The beep of the monitor. If she arrests, if Claire dies, take what you can for Emily. My mother's voice, clear as day, echoed off the stained glass. Use her other kidney. Don't let it go to waste. I let it play. I let it play the part where the doctor tells her I'm still alive, and she sounds disappointed. I let it play until the end. When silence returned to the room, it was heavy, suffocating. Father Mike was staring at my mother with his mouth open. Aunt Sarah looked like she was going to be sick. My father was weeping silently. My mother was white as a sheet. She looked small.
Caught.
That.
She stammered.
That's fake. You made that up. It's a hospital recording, Mom.
From the room where I was paralyzed.
Listening to you plan my autopsy while my heart was still beating. I was stressed, she screamed, jumping up. I didn't mean it. You are twisting everything. Am I? I looked at the priest. Father, does that sound like love to you? Does that sound like a mother who deserves another sacrifice? Father Mike looked down. He couldn't meet my eyes. Mrs. Bennett, did you really say that? She was dying. My mother defended herself, but her voice was shrill, desperate. I was trying to save Emily. Why does nobody care about Emily? Because you were willing to butcher me to do it, I said. And now you're doing the same thing, she accused, pointing a shaking finger at me. You are letting her die out of spite. You are holding on to that recording and using it as an excuse to be a murderer. You are murdering your sister. I am not murdering anyone, I said. I am protecting myself from people who see me as livestock. You have to do it, she advanced on me, her eyes wild. You have to. I won't let you leave until you sign the papers. You are the match. You are the only one. I'm not the only one, I said softly. You are. We checked the database. There's nobody. I said, looking her dead in the eye, I'm not a match anymore. She stopped. What? I can't give a kidney to Emily, I said. Not because I'm spiteful. Not because I'm sick. But because I don't have one to give. Liar, she screamed. I saw the scan. You have a left kidney. I have a left kidney, I agreed. But it doesn't belong to me anymore. Not really. What are you talking about? Aunt Sarah demanded. 2 years ago, I said, my voice steady, feeling the weight of the secret finally lifting. I underwent a laparoscopic procedure. It was a donation chain. My mother froze.
What?
I donated my remaining healthy tissue. I lied slightly. It wasn't fully healthy, but it was functional enough for a pediatric patient. I gave it away. You what? My father spoke for the first time, his voice a rasp of horror. I donated a kidney, I said, to a 9-year-old girl named Maya. She was my patient. She was dying. Her parents loved her. They didn't view her as an insurance policy. They just loved her. So I gave it to her. The room spun. My mother grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. You gave it to a stranger? she whispered. She wasn't a stranger, I said. She was a child who needed me. And unlike you, she said thank you. But your kidney? My mother touched her own side, as if feeling the phantom organ. That was Emily's kidney. You gave away Emily's kidney. It was never Emily's, I said. You monster, she screamed. It was a guttural, animal sound. She tried to rush me, but Aunt Sarah held her back. You did this on purpose. You did this just so you wouldn't have to give it to her. You ruined us. You killed her. I saved a life, I said. Just not the one you wanted. Get out, she shrieked. Get out of my sight. You are dead to me. You hear me? Dead. I was dead to you 6 years ago, Mom, I said, picking up my laptop. You just forgot to bury me. I walked to the door. I didn't look back. I could hear her screaming, a raw, broken sound of a woman who had lost her control, her inventory, and her narrative all in one stroke. I walked out into the hospital corridor. The air felt cleaner here. I took a deep breath. My side ached, a phantom pain from the scars that crisscrossed my abdomen, a map of everything they had taken, and the one thing I had freely given. I was free, or so I thought. But as I reached the elevator, my phone buzzed. It wasn't my parents. It was a text from an unknown number. I know what you did, and I'm going to tell the world. I stared at the screen. The nightmare wasn't over. It was just changing venues. The silence in the chapel wasn't peaceful. It was the kind of silence that happens after a bomb goes off, before the screaming starts. My mother was still gripping the back of the chair, her knuckles white. Her face was a mask of contorted confusion. The sentence I had just spoken hung in the air like toxic smoke. I already donated. You're lying, Aunt Sarah whispered. She was the first to find her voice, though it lacked its usual venom. It sounded thin, brittle. You're just saying that to hurt us. You're trying to scare Emily. I didn't answer her. Instead, I looked at Dr. Holloway. He was the only person in the room who operated on logic, not hysteria. Dr. Holloway, I said, my voice calm, the adrenaline finally settling into a cold, hard resolve. You have access to the National Registry. You can check my medical history. Look for a laparoscopic nephrectomy performed at Passing Memorial Hospital in Chicago 2 years ago. Surgeon, Dr. Eris Thorne. Dr. Holloway pulled out his tablet. His fingers moved quickly across the screen. The room watched him. My mother held her breath. My father was staring at me, his eyes wide and watery, as if he was seeing a stranger wearing his daughter's face. A minute passed. Then 2. The only sound was the hum of the HVAC system and the distant, muffled paging announcements from the hospital corridor. Dr. Holloway stopped tapping. He stared at the screen for a long moment, then looked up at me. There was a new expression in his eyes. Respect.
And sadness.
It's here, he said softly. No. My mother shrieked. She scrambled toward him, grabbing his arm. Let me see. She's lying. It's a fake record. Mrs. Bennett, please. Dr. Holloway turned the screen so she could see. Subject, Claire Bennett. Procedure, left nephrectomy. Donor chain ID, number 8892 alpha. Date, October 14th, 2 years ago. My mother stared at the glowing screen. She read the words, but her brain refused to process them. To her, my kidney was an asset she owned. It was impossible that the asset had been liquidated without her permission. Who? She whispered. She looked up at me, her eyes wild. Who did you give it to? Who has Emily's kidney? It wasn't Emily's kidney, I said again, feeling the exhaustion settle into my bones. And I gave it to a girl named Maya. Maya? She spat the name like a curse word. Who is Maya? Is she family? Is she a friend? Why would you give my daughter's life to a stranger named Maya? I walked over to the window. It was still raining outside. The gray sky matched the gray feeling inside my chest. I was working in the PICU, I said, speaking more to the window than to them. Maya was 9. She had been in the hospital for 8 months. Her parents, David and Elena, slept in chairs next to her bed every single night. They never complained. They never yelled at the nurses. They never demanded special treatment. I turned back to face my family. One night, Maya coded. We got her back, but it was close. I saw her mother in the hallway afterward. She wasn't negotiating with the doctors. She wasn't planning on harvesting organs from her other children. She didn't have any. She was just praying. She told me, I just want her to see her 10th birthday. I don't care if she's sick. I just want her here. I looked at my mother. She loved her daughter, I said. Not because she was a pageant winner. Not because she was perfect. She loved her because she was her child. And I realized I had something that could save that love. I had a spare part that was just sitting there, waiting to be claimed by you people the next time Emily sneezed. So you gave it away, my mother said, her voice shaking with rage. To spite us. No, I said. I gave it to Maya because she deserved a chance to grow up without owing her life to someone who resented her. I gave it anonymously. I never met them after the surgery. I just know she's alive.
She's 12 now.
She plays soccer. Soccer, my father murmured. He looked down at his hands. She plays soccer. And Emily is dying, my mother screamed, lunging at me again. This time, Aunt Sarah didn't hold her back. My mother grabbed the lapels of my jacket, shaking me. You gave a kidney to a soccer player, and you left your sister to rot. You monster. You selfish, evil little bitch. I didn't fight her. I just stood there, letting her shake me. She was smaller than me now, weaker. Her rage was all she had left. She's your sister, she wailed, collapsing against my chest, sliding down to her knees. How could you? She's your sister? I looked down at the top of her head. I felt nothing. No guilt. No pity. Just a vast, empty prairie where my love for them used to be. No, Mom, I said, gently peeling her hands off my coat and stepping back. She's not my sister. She's the reason I was raised as spare parts. And you're the manufacturer. I looked at Father Mike. He was pale, clutching his Bible like a shield. I think we're done here, Father, I said. Unless you have a prayer for a family that eats its own young. I walked out of the chapel. This time, nobody followed me. But the war wasn't over. It just moved to the trenches. I went back to the ICU. I had to finish my shift report, and I had to face Emily. I couldn't leave without looking her in the eye one last time. I needed her to know that the bank was closed. Permanently. I walked into room 404. Emily was awake. She looked terrible. The dialysis machine was humming rhythmically, filtering her blood, but her color was gray-yellow. Her eyes were sunken. She looked up when I entered. She tried to smile, that old, charming smile that used to get her out of detention. Hey, she croaked. Mom said you guys were talking. Did she convince you? I stood at the foot of her bed. I looked at the chart. I looked at the fluids dripping into her veins. No, Emily, I said. Her smile faltered. Oh. Well, she can be intense. But, Claire, I really am sick. It's not a joke this time. I know you're sick. So, she reached out a hand. You'll do it, right? For me? I promise I'll be better this time. I'll take the meds. I won't drink. I'll appreciate it. I swear. She was bargaining. Just like Mom. I can't do it, Emily. Don't say can't, she snapped, a flash of the old entitlement breaking through. Just say you want something. What do you want? Money? Dad has retirement savings. We can pay you. How much? 10,000? 20. I laughed. It was a sad sound. You think this is about money? Everything is about something. You want an apology? Fine. I'm sorry. I'm sorry I was the favorite. I'm sorry Mom loves me more. Is that what you want to hear? It's not my fault I was born better. There it was. The truth. She believed it. She genuinely believed she was a superior species, and I was just the worker drone born to serve the queen. I walked to the side of the bed. I lowered the safety rail, so there was nothing between us. I can't give you a kidney, Emily, because I don't have one. She blinked. What? I donated my left kidney 2 years ago. To a little girl in Chicago. Emily stared at me. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She looked at my stomach, then at my face. You lied, she whispered. I didn't lie. You just never asked. But tears started to well up in her eyes. But what about me? What about you? I need it, she screamed, her voice cracking. I need it. What am I supposed to do? You get on the list, I said. Like everyone else. Like the 90,000 other people in this country who are waiting for a kidney. You wait. You go to dialysis 3 times a week. You sit in the chair for 4 hours. You watch your diet. You hope. I can't wait, she sobbed. I'll die. The doctor said my antibodies are too high. I'll never find a match. Then you live as long as you can, I said. That's what the rest of us do. You killed me, she hissed, glaring at me with pure hatred. You went out and gave away my life to some brat just to kill me. I saved myself, I said. And for the record, Emily, that kidney I gave you 6 years ago, the one you destroyed, it wasn't a bad match. It was perfect. You just didn't take care of it because you thought there was another one waiting in the fridge. You thought I was the fridge. I pulled up my scrub top. I showed her the scars. The old, jagged one on the right. The neat, white line on the left. Empty, I said. All inventory is gone. She screamed. It was a high, thin sound of despair. She threw her water cup at me. It bounced harmlessly off my chest. I turned and walked out. I walked past the nurse's station. I told the charge nurse, I'm taking emergency leave. Don't call me. I walked out of the hospital, into the rain. I got in my car and drove. I didn't go back to my apartment immediately. I drove to the edge of the city, to a lookout point where you could see the skyline. I sat there for a long time, watching the lights. It has been 6 months since that day in the chapel. I didn't lose my nursing license. Dr. Holloway advocated for me. He told the board that the family situation was abusive and that I had acted ethically by removing myself from care. I transferred to a different hospital in a different state. I needed distance. Physical, geographical distance. The fallout for the Bennett family was, predictably, nuclear. I heard through a cousin, the only one who still talks to me, that my parents are broke. They spent their retirement savings trying to buy a kidney on the black market in some shady overseas clinic. They got scammed. Of course they did. Desperation makes you stupid. And Emily? Emily is still alive. She is on the transplant list. But her status is inactive half the time because she's too sick for surgery. She goes to dialysis 3 days a week. My cousin says she looks 20 years older. She's bitter. She posts long, rambling rants on Facebook about how family betrayed her and how the medical system is rigged. She lives with our parents. They are trapped together in that house, a trinity of misery. My mother, who failed to save her golden child. My father, who lost his money and his dignity. And Emily, who has to look at them every day and know that they couldn't buy her a miracle this time. They are cannibalizing each other now. Without me there to be the scapegoat, without me to be the problem, they have turned on one another. My mother blames Emily for not taking care of the first kidney. Emily blames my mother for not forcing me to donate sooner. My father just drinks. It's a tragedy. I know that. But it's not my tragedy anymore. Last week I received a letter. It had no return address, but the postmark was from Chicago. Inside was a photograph. It was a picture of a soccer team. 12-year-old girls in bright orange jerseys, grinning at the camera, covered in mud. In the front row, holding the ball, was a girl with dark curly hair and a fierce smile. Maya. On the back of the photo, in messy preteen handwriting, it said, "We won the championship. Thank you for the assist." I sat on my kitchen floor and cried. Not the ugly, choking tears of the past, but clean tears. Tears of relief. That little girl in the photo doesn't know my name. She doesn't know my history. She doesn't know about the sister I left behind or the mother who wished I was dead. She just knows she can run. She knows she can play. I stood up and went to the mirror in the hallway. I pulled up my shirt. The scars are still there. They will always be there. The jagged line on the right, a reminder of what was stolen. The clean line on the left, a reminder of what was given freely. For 20 years, I looked in the mirror and saw a spare part. I saw a backup plan. I saw inventory. But tonight, looking at those silver lines on my skin, I didn't see a victim. I didn't see a villain. I saw Claire. I touched the glass, tracing the reflection of my own face. I am empty of kidneys to give. I am empty of guilt. I am empty of the need for their love. And in that emptiness, for the first time in my entire life, I am whole.